Hi, I'm Val, and I love to talk about interior decor and design. And today I want to tackle some common issues that I see a lot of people running into when decorating or furnishing their homes. Also, apologies about the lack of video last week. I actually started a new job, so I was working on a video, but I was exporting it way too late at night. And I ran into some storage issues on my Mac, and what did I delete to be able to export this video? The very clips I was working on. Yes. And to be honest, I just didn't have the heart to restart like 8 hours of work right away. So I decided to make this video first instead, and then I'll remake last week's video for next week. Oh yeah, so Val from the future here. When I went to edit this very video, it turned out my SD card was also broken, and it was a weekend, and my tech store didn't have any in stock, so I had to wait like 3 days until a new one came in. And so there's even more delays, and yes, I promise I'm working very hard. Please be kind to me. Thank you. Anyway, a little extra support on either or both of these videos would be much appreciated because I do work really hard on them and I put a lot of time and effort in. Now, I don't know about you, but I've been watching design YouTube for many years at this point, and I've seen certain problems or difficult situations come up over and over again. Of course, you can find some solutions by also watching years and years of content, but I thought I'd make it a little easier by compiling the most common issues that I've seen and also putting in my own 2 cents. And sure, some of the answers to these problems might seem a little obvious, but I promise I'll provide good examples for each one. So put your hard hat on like Bob the Builder, because can we fix this? Yes, we can. We're starting off strong with low light. City dwellers, apartment hunters, people living in their parents' basements. You probably know the struggle. Your space is low to the ground and or faces the wrong direction, so it just doesn't get a lot of natural light. But don't let the darkness get you down. First of all, you may have heard that white and other light pink colors reflect a lot of light. And while that is true when light is ample, when you have a dark white room, it can kind of read as bland and uninspiring, kind of like an insurance office or a hospital room. In actuality, you should try leaning into the darkness and create a beautiful, moody home. Choose medium or darker colors for your walls and furniture, and what light does come in can be reflected by mirrors or other reflective materials like shiny metals, glazed ceramic, or other types of glass. And of course, light it up with LOL. No, not laughing out loud, although I'm sure your laughter could brighten up a room. I mean lots of lamps. Try to layer your lighting by mixing things like floor lamps, table lamps, wall sconces, etc., and maybe more soft, glowy lights versus very focused ones. Now, most designers will recommend that you use bulbs of around 3000 Kelvin or less, but I would actually even say to stay around 2000 for living rooms and bedrooms, but that's my personal preference. Afraid to try it out and fully lean into the moodiness? That's understandable. Experiment with this concept in smaller rooms like hallways, bathrooms, maybe even a guest room, whatever it may be, and you can see the effect for yourself before you make any drastic changes to your whole home. Also, if you're not allowed to paint, try covering a lot of the walls with furniture, art, and other decor. And yes, that will start to lean a little more maximalist, but that's okay. If you want a Japandi minimalist white home, you gotta move to one with better lighting anyway, because certain styles only work in certain settings. Which styles will work for you depends a lot on the details of the space, but modern traditional or classic, eclectic chic, Victorian, rustic, and Art Deco come to mind. A more recent problem is that everything is gray. For some unknown and ungodly reason, a lot of house flippers and landlords decided that the perfect color for floors, kitchens, bathrooms, and who knows what else is gray. Now, if you like that, I don't understand you, but that's okay. But if you don't like that, let me give you some tips. If you're either renting or you own but you don't have any money to renovate, you can either accept the gray or try to hide it as best as you can. Possibly the most important guideline is to add warmth. Buy warm wooded furniture, use warm colored rugs, curtains, sofas, etc. Stay away from not only cool tones but also black and white. Unfortunately, older and more ornamental decor styles probably won't fit your space with all the gray, so try to lean into more modern styles like mid-century, boho, eclectic, etc. If only your floors are gray, cover them in rugs. But if your kitchen or bathroom is also really gray, you can use peel and stick tiles for the floors, walls, and backsplash. But if you do that, make sure that it's really good quality and that you can apply it well, because if it's easy to spot how fake it is, the cheapness will look even worse than the gray itself. For an easier solution, try to accessorize with different colors. But please don't go for the all gray look with the one single color pop. We've left those days behind us and we mustn't revisit them. Ever. Number 3, you got a very small home. So you live in a shoebox. What now? Right away, I want to tell you that the solution is not to buy a whole bunch of small stuff. Too many tiny items can actually look cheap, uncoordinated, and kind of cluttery. The solution lies in fewer items and smarter items. Obviously, I don't mean buy the biggest 10-seater you can find at Seats and Sofas and throw it in your tiny apartment. But if comfortable and practical furniture fits, get it. Also, with furniture you use less frequently, try to create a flexible space. Think of stackable stools for when guests come over, so you can just keep them in the corner when you're alone and then pull them right back out so people can sit on them. Or maybe those stools can also be used as a side table, so it has a double function. And this also goes for, let's say, a storage ottoman. You can store things in it and your guests can sit down. If you got to sacrifice some items, maybe have less side tables in general and definitely less standing decor like big plant pots or bulky floor lamps. And like I said, stackable, storable seats that only guests use once in a while when they come over, because you usually meet up in cafes anyway. Get a desk that folds in and out, especially if you don't keep that much stuff on it, or an expandable dining table. Or one of those coffee tables that can go up and down and turn into a desk or dining table if you like to sit or work from your couch. I'm personally not a fan of things like Murphy beds or loft beds for your main sleeping space, but if you have a lot of sleepover guests, things like a futon or the expendable drawer beds like the ones from IKEA can be really great. Or if you'd rather keep items over people, you can find beds or sofas with storage, which brings me to my next point. Now, whether you have a smaller or larger home, some are just built with very little storage in mind. No hallway closets, few kitchen cabinets, a tiny built-in wardrobe in your bedroom, if you even get one at all. The obvious solution is to create your own storage. But how? One tip is to use vertical space. For example, my friend has a radiator on one side of her bedroom where she would have really liked to put some storage items. Now, she can't place a dresser or a big wardrobe there, but she can hang shelves above it. Or, if she really wanted, she could suspend a clothing rod from the ceiling and even hang a track curtain in front of it to then hide her clothes. In general, I usually recommend hanging shelves wherever you can't fit a dresser, credenza, or bookcase. And you can even use nice-looking baskets or boxes if you want to store stuff that you don't necessarily want to have out in sight. But let's say you can't or don't want to hang any shelves. When I lived in NYC, my ex and I shared a small little medicine cabinet in our bathroom, and that was the only storage. Now, we didn't really want to drill anything because his sister owned the place, so we bought one of those tall shelf units that you can just fit over your toilet, and done. You can usually find a solution that fits your specific needs. Of course, if you are using height for storage, it's best to put the least frequently items all the way on the top so you're not reaching for high up boxes and baskets on the daily. And like I said before, don't sleep on storage ottomans, sofas, underbed storage, or using low drawer chests as nightstands, for example. Lastly, you don't have to be a minimalist and barely own anything just because you live smaller, but you do need to prioritize what you really want and need a lot versus what you don't. I love clothing, so at my last place, which was definitely smaller, I still created space for a big wardrobe because that's what I really wanted and would use. And yes, that meant that I didn't have space for a desk or things like seasonal decor items or any kind of crafts. But that's okay because I don't really keep that stuff. And another person might find like a small, plain wardrobe, plenty of space for their clothes, but they might want to store more tools and materials for hobbies. Whatever suits your needs, whatever suits your lifestyle. Moving on to the trend effect. If your home feels impersonal or even like a showroom, that's because it is, kind of. If you only buy fast furniture and mass-produced decor, even if it's from different stores or brands, both you and your guests will sense it. Even if you combine unique shapes, funky color combos, and weird styles, buying everything new in regular stores will read as trendy and or void of personality. One specific example I always think of is the dopamine decor trend from a few years back. Like, yes, you combined a lot of colors. Yes, everything was squiggles and checkers. Yes, people used paint and wallpapers and cutesy tiles. But every room I've ever seen with this tag looks like a copy of another, and none tell me anything about the owner, except that they follow TikTok trends. The solutions are to inherit, thrift, make, and bring things back from abroad as souvenirs. And yes, of course you can have a couple new, more basic pieces, but I'd say the ideal balance lies somewhere around 50-50 at the very least. So think different time periods, different styles, different materials, different backstories, but all representing one and the same person. You. Now, would you define yourself as an H&M home? Well, I sure hope not. You have a lot of personality. Let your decor have some too. You might think that opposite to your home being impersonal would be your home being too cluttered, but they can actually go hand in hand. I know it's hard to let go of decor, trust me. Somehow I'm great at Marie Kondoing my clothes every season, but I cannot seem to let go of home decor. However, if you feel like you have too much of a good thing, it'll start to feel like a bad thing. What helps me personally is a soft clear out. Grab a box or shopping bag for each room and fill it with items that you're the least sure that you would miss. Store it somewhere out of sight and give it about 6 months. Then look at it again and see if you even remembered that you had some of this stuff or if you really even want it back. No? Then donate it to someone who will. And if it's a special heirloom that for some reason you do want to keep but don't want to have in your home, keep it in storage. Think of space as a commodity, just like money. You're spending space on things that aren't worth it. Now, if you need to do clearouts often, you might have the same problem that many of us face nowadays: impulse buying. You see something cute in a thrift store and you immediately decide to bring it home. Now, would you spend $40 on that vase? No, but it's only $4, so it doesn't really matter if you love it or not, does it? Or you're shopping at your favorite grocery store and all of a sudden in the non-food aisle, you're surprised by these cute little cushions. Does it really match your space? Is it unique? Does it show off your personality? But it's cute, cheap, and it caught you by surprise when your guard was down. Try saving up your space, money, time, and effort for things that you'll really love, rather than just stuffing your space with good deal items and easy little filler fluff. Let's switch things up and talk about layouts, and specifically what to do when they don't flow. So you have a weird layout. Is it due to the floor plan, your furniture arrangement, or both? Let's start with the arrangement. Many design experts advise to leave at least 30 to 36 inches for walk paths. Of course, that can vary by the shape of the items, how many items are nearby, and how big the space is in general. So it's a handy guideline to refer to, but it's not a fix-all. Instead, pay close attention to your movement patterns. Where do you usually sit down? Do you move around that table from the left or the right side? Is it easy to bring food from the kitchen to the dining table? Make your life at home as easy as possible. And even if something works in practice but doesn't feel right, trust your gut. It might be a feng shui type of issue. Then there's just odd floor plans. Think of long but thin rooms, too many doors or windows so there's no usable wall space, or weird niches or protrusions in the wall. Of course, every unique issue needs a unique solution, so I can't really provide a fix-all for you, but I can go over some of the more common ones. For long rooms, especially if they have multiple uses, use rugs and the direction of the furniture to create zones. Now, for niches and protrusions in the wall, custom is usually best, as in custom shelves, for example, behind a couch to close the gap that might be created due to an old chimney running in that wall, or custom shelves in a small niche because nothing else will fit there. And sadly, these shelves will most likely be just for display and not be any functional type of storage. But maybe you can then use another area that you would have otherwise used to display nice things and use that for the functional storage instead. For very little usable wall space, instead of hanging your TV, just put it on a stand or a media unit. Hang art in between the doors and windows if possible, and try to place your main furniture in such a way that you can hopefully see all the doors and windows as much as possible without, of course, blocking the foot traffic flow. For more inspiration on this, I would recommend Cliff Tan for short form videos and Tales of Maria or Noah Daniel if you prefer long form. And of course, if I have more subscribers in the future, I would love to puzzle with your weird and difficult layout issues. Unfortunately, some spaces are just poorly designed architecturally, and you don't always get to have both good feng shui and practical flow. But keep experimenting as much as possible by rearranging your furniture until you've reached a placement that works for you. Last but not least, design is in the details. Even if you fill your home with the coolest decor and furniture, certain details might throw it off. For example, let's say that your style is very much Victorian, but you have fugly 90s doorknobs, or you want a Bauhaus space, but your bathroom has farmhouse tiles. Swap that stuff out. This feels a bit more obvious if you own your home because these will be investments and you'll be able to enjoy them as long as you like. But even if you're renting, you can still make some of these changes. Like I mentioned earlier, you could use peel and stick tiles that suit your taste better, but if you don't like that, you can just distract from them by using some color in other decor items. Replace the doorknobs and just take them to your next home. Change outlet covers, drawer handles, and light fixtures. Very important. Now, I know you can't always reuse everything, so sometimes it might feel like a waste of time and money. I get that. It's up to you to decide whether it's worth it or not. Sometimes the answer is acceptance and balancing the style that you want with the style that actually suits the space. But if you live somewhere for years and this could make or break your enjoyment of your home, you may find it's worth it. You probably want to solve at least some issues since you've watched this whole video. While a few of you may be lucky enough to not experience any of these issues, I hope this video was helpful for those of you who do. And if you have any other problems that I haven't addressed here, let me know down below so I can talk about them in a future video. If you enjoyed this video, it would mean a lot to me as a still pretty new YouTuber if you left a like or even a comment. And if you're into interior decor and design in general, subscribe to my channel. I know this is my 10th video on interior decor and design, and some of you might be getting a little tired of hearing me say, hey, I'm a new YouTuber, please support me. But the truth is that the algorithm has not been my friend lately. My channel has kind of stagnated and my recent videos have not been getting many views at all. So yes, your support can actually make a really big difference. I'm hoping to get monetized within the next couple of months so that I can keep making these videos pretty frequently. And yeah, it would I would really appreciate it if you guys could help out with that. So thank you so much for those of you who do, and hopefully see you very soon.